key elements of a strong governance playbook for IPO success. I'm joined by Erika Eliasson-Norris, CEO, and Victoria Garvin, Senior Governance Director at Beyond Governance, who will be discussing why governance must come first when considering an IPO. This is Marketplace Matters. Erika, Victoria, thank you so much for joining me today at the London Stock Exchange.
Thank you for having us. It's lovely to be here.
Now, who are Beyond Governance and what do you do?
So Beyond Governance is a consultancy with a difference. We design with implementation in mind, which means that we build strategic governance that really supports the business. So if we come in and do a strategic review, we look at how that would be implemented and maintained for the future. So even if we aren't asked to do that ourselves, we would be very confident to be able to come back in the future and actually get that in place. We see governance as a business accelerator, not as a roadblock. It enables an organisation to move quicker, and as such, governance should be your unfair competitive advantage.
And what is your approach to governance and how do you stand out?
So we cut through the red tape. We don't believe in building bureaucracy. We build business-focused governance, and that really supports the business to be able to move quicker. It allows the organisation to accelerate its growth. It allows it to attract investment, and it allows it to make decisions that are strategic and fit for purpose for the organisation.
Mm-hmm. And we know governance is so important, right? Why does getting governance right help companies raise more capital?
Well, investors don't invest in chaos. They invest in organisations that are run properly, that have that level of control. And a strong governance framework enables an organisation to show to its investors that it manages business risk, that its board make accountable, smart decisions, and that the plans for the future are sustainable. That therefore enables investors to understand where their capital is going to be going. And that capital doesn't just go to innovative organisations, it goes to organisations that have that level of control within that structure, because investors want to know that there is transparency, they want to know that there is predictability, and they want to know that there is competence within the board. And that is what governance creates for that organisation.
Yeah, really important points. Now, Victoria, how can companies strike the right balance between bureaucracy, value creation, and risk management?
So that's a really important element when it comes to governance, because more often than not, people assume governance is quite bureaucratic. And when it's done correctly and frameworks are fully embedded within an organisation, that's where you see the value creation and how governance can support management of risks within an organisation. So whilst you need some bureaucracy with respect to governance, it needs to not be excessive. It has to be a necessary level. You have to have the right frameworks, you have to have the right processes in place, but you have to be able to maintain that agility. And that's where you can look to create that value within your organisation, because a robust governance framework will support that decision making, it will support operational efficiencies within an organisation, and that's where you really bring in the elements around risk management, so that you're clear on who can do what and how they can action things so that you can continue the business effectively.
And what happens once a company has reached the point of IPO? And why does governance matter in the long run?
So an IPO is a really important step for an organisation, and there are a myriad of advisors that are in place to support you as you reach that milestone. But once you've done that, that's when governance doesn't stop. That's when you have to continue to ensure that you've got the right frameworks in place to make sure that you are embedding all of those necessary elements that support the operations of the organisation. Governance needs to be an enabler, and therefore you need to have those right processes in place. You need to be able to be certain that you're managing market expectations, that you're thinking about financial reporting, that public perception of what you are doing as an organisation. And that's where governance really comes into its own. It's about supporting an organisation, enabling them to be able to be outward looking and strategic in their perspectives.
Mm-hmm. And from that perspective, can you share some of the key elements of a strong governance playbook for a company's IPO success?
Of course. So I think it's really helpful for an organisation to have that playbook. You need to have those distinct elements that come into play within the organisation, whether that's having the right structures at a board level, so you've got the right board in place, you've got clarity around roles and responsibilities, you've got certainty over where decisions are made and how things need to be managed within the organisation. Another key element in your playbook is that transparency around your financial reporting. You need to make sure that you are clear in terms of the narrative that is being made publicly available to people, because when you are listed, that's what you're going to have to manage. You need to be able to demonstrate to people that you're operating effectively. You need to ensure that you've got that good communication angle, whether that's through stock exchange announcements, whether it's through public disclosures, whether it's about how you are engaging with your investors and shareholders. And that's where transparency really comes into its own with respect to what good governance looks like within an organisation. It's creating the groundwork for people to operate and know that they've got the robust processes and procedures in place.
Those are some really useful points I think companies can take away. Now, final thoughts. What's one piece of advice for businesses thinking about an IPO and their governance strategy? Erika?
So the old news was the start IPO governance early. But I think that the modern way of looking at it is stop thinking like a private company now. So IPO governance is not a box tick, it's a mindset change. Mm-hmm. And I think as soon as organisations start to get into the flow of that, whether that's enabling the board to be scrutinised and considering what investors would think of the decisions that are happening, considering risk and the implication that that might have. And I think the most important thing with all of this is that it's not a pre-IPO box tick. It's something that is a discipline. It's something that an organisation will have for the rest of its existence, and it's something that should be put in place as soon as possible.
Great. Well, thanks so much both for joining me today, and really looking forward to seeing what's to come for Beyond Governance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For more information about Beyond Governance, you can visit their Marketplace profile page on the London Stock Exchange Issuer Services platform. Thanks very much for watching.